Whether it's the shrunken head of a Jivaro enemy, the toe tag off of presidential assassin Lee Harvey Oswald, or the mummified and bisected head of a German serial killer, Ripley's has its fair share of creepers. But amongst the morbid memento moris and creeping curiosities, one form of publishing has eluded our collection. Like, subscribe, and keep watching because we're sure to make your skin crawl today on Cool Stuff, Strange Things. Displaying the flayed skin of defeated enemies dates back to ancient times. For the Assyrians who inhabited Mesopotamia around 2500 BC, it proved a common fate for dissidents and defeated enemies. In the New World, the Aztecs of the 15th century practiced highly ritualized skinning ceremonies, reserved for prisoners of war. Believed to appease the god Xipe Totec, priests would treat the POW's removed dermises with yellow dye and wear it on special occasions. Now, while these may sound comfortable, far away, and at the hands of less modern cultures, the history of binding books with human skin isn't all that old. Just as grisly in a civilized sort of way, here's what we know about the macabre practice. In 1869, an impoverished woman in her late 20s died in Ward 27 of the Philadelphia Almshouse and Hospital, also known as Old Balakli. The result of tuberculosis and trichinosis, she weighed just 60 pounds, and her name was Mary Lynch. Now, John Stockton Hugh, the physician who carried out her autopsy, devised a grotesque way for Lynch to prove useful in death. Removing a section of skin from Lynch's thigh, he tanned it in the hospital's basement using a bedpan filled with human urine. Okay, so because of its high pH, urine does prove ideal for tanning and softening skins, but it's still very creepy. He later used the resultant leather to bind 3 anatomical texts on human reproduction. Today, the books remain housed at the Mutter Museum of the College of Physicians of Philadelphia, a strange homage to this woman's premature demise. The medical books, once owned by Hugh, are not an anomaly, however. Other books with human dermis for binding have also turned up over the years. At Harvard University, researchers recently confirmed that a book in their collection, Des Destinies d'Âme, Destinies of the Soul, by Arsène Houssaye, is another example of anthropodermic bibliopegy. That's the scientific term for books bound with human leather. So what do we know about the history of the book? Houssaye gave a copy to his friend Dr. Ludovic Bolan, who handled the grisly and bizarre binding process. Bolan confirmed as much with a handwritten note describing his binding choice. And I'll quote him here. "This book, bound in human skin parchment on which no ornament has been stamped to preserve its elegance. By looking carefully, you easily distinguish the pores of the skin. A book about the human soul deserved to have a human covering. I had kept this piece of human skin taken from the back of a woman. It is interesting to see the different aspects that change this skin according to the method of preparation to which it is subjected. Compare, for example, with the small volume I have in my library, Sever Penius de Virginitatis Notis, which is also bound in human skin, but tanned with sumac." Bolan used the hide of an unclaimed female mental patient who died of a stroke, but unfortunate patients weren't the only individuals to be immortalized in this horrific way. There are also a handful of cases of criminals whose corpses lent materials for books. Many of these books showcase the date of the criminal's execution stamped on their covers, as well as their name or when they were born or other details of the crime itself. The Bristol Record Office made such a book from the skin of the first man hanged at Bristol Gaol. The book's embossed dark brown leather came from 18-year-old John Horwood, executed for murdering Eliza Balsam. Within the book are details from the crime, which took place in 1821. According to the official accounts, Horwood became increasingly infatuated with Balsam before her death, even threatening to kill her on one occasion. One day, while she was sent to fetch water, Horwood bludgeoned her to death with a large stone. Now, she survived the initial bludgeoning, but later succumbed to her injuries. He was put on trial and summarily executed for the offense. A surgeon named Richard Smith dissected his corpse at a public lecture at the Bristol Royal Infirmary. Now, like Howe, Smith decided to keep a hunk of flesh for book crafting purposes. Another gruesome artifact was born. He had the book embossed with a skull and crossbone images and the phrase Cutis Vera Johannes Horwood in gilt letters. The words translate, "the actual skin of John Horwood." Today, a single sheet of the skin resides in the Ripley's collection, noting Horwood's transgression and signed by the surgeon himself. Now, if you want to see this morbid curiosity or other strange things, be sure to visit Ripley's.com to find an auditorium near you. Those are the places where we display the many treasures, artifacts, and curiosities of the Ripley's collection. But back to our book problem here. To put it in perspective, examples of anthropodermic bibliophagy date back to the 13th century in Europe. However, the practice didn't start trending until the late 16th and early 17th centuries. But by the 19th century, some doctors bound books on human anatomy with these skins, considering it a fitting gesture for, I guess, their building subjects. Now, researchers often argue that the books weren't meant in any way to be disrespectful, but as a way to honor individuals who may not have survived but still contributed to medicine, likening it to the practice of keeping an urn of ashes or a lock of hair or naming a hospital wing after somebody. They were part of the process. Others, however, see more sinister motivations. They believe that many doctors employed at almshouses looked at the patients they were treating with measures of contempt and loathing, that if they could not serve society adequately in life, then they served no other purpose than to be of service in some way in their deaths. Now, of course, some local governments also commission these books as the ultimate exercise of punishment for criminal acts, but no matter the purpose, the vast majority were crafted by doctors with ready access to corpses for dissection. What do you think, though? Leave whether you think it was an honor or just gave you Buffalo Bill vibes in the comment below. Also, let us know if you want your favorite book bound in human skin. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're not already. Check Ripleys.com to explore the odd in person, like I said before. And until next time, keep your skin moist and your pores clean, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Cool Stuff, Strange Things. I think I'd go for being a book. I don't know, why not? Anthropodermic bibliophagy. Anthropodermic bibliophagy. Anthropodermic bibliophagy.